It's David for Big Bits. I'm going to do a live stream today. I don't know how many people are actually going to be watching this. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, mostly because I've been super busy. Finally got a day off for my day job, so I can do some of this stuff. Uh, Basically, what we're going to do in this live streams, we're going to take a look at some of the stuff we've been working on without going into a whole lot of detail like we typically do with the pre-recorded videos that are the tutorials and stuff like that. We're just going to talk about a few things. If any questions, please type in the chat. I'll try to pay attention to that. That's hard for me to keep up with because it's on another screen off to the side here, but I will try to keep up with what's going on here. But anyway, I did want to share the most recent indicator I've published, and this was just a few minutes ago, 23 minutes ago now. This is RSI callouts. This is something that somebody requested in one of the YouTube comments recently. I thought it was a pretty good idea, so I decided to run with it. And essentially what it's doing is it's the RSI indicator. That's all it is an RSI indicator, but instead of overlaying it, not overlaying it on your chart and taking up all that space at the bottom of the screen, it's only going to do these callouts when you reach a certain threshold, when things are oversold or overbought. So, things were overbought here and your RSI was at an 83. So it gives you a good idea what your RSI is at when you're looking at a particular candle without having to have that RSI indicator at the bottom of the screen and having to track that all the way through its history. But let's see. Yeah, so that one's open source. You can find that on my profile. Just search for Big Bits IO. It's pretty simple. Already got a like on it. That's nice. But let's take a look here. I did want to tell you with this one, you can set your custom RSI information, so you can set the period and the source for the RSI calculation itself, but you can also adjust the oversold level. So we'll come up with that so we can actually get some of these to show up on the screen here. Bam, there we go. This is a 1 minute chart. So there's not a lot going oversold unless there's some pretty big moves pretty quickly. But, you're looking at 71, 70, 70. And one of the things that I did was when I created the indicator, I actually added in the feature to hide labels if they've also occurred within the previous 3 candles. So you'll notice here there's a lot back to forth, back one after the other. But essentially, what this does is say this RSI here is 71. If the previous one was also above the overbought value, it would have hidden the label here, and it'll go back 3 more candles to hide those labels. That way you don't have a lot of overlap like you kind of see here. I could make it more, but then you might kind of miss some divergences. So like you can see here, this is probably an RSI divergence. You can see there's a peak, 74, RSI is lower at 70, but the price is higher. So that's a divergence on the RSI. And you'll notice quickly on that bearish divergence that the price dropped right after that. So that is another thing that you can look out here for. Let me actually change this back to 75 and 25. Not a whole lot at 75 and 25, but let's go back out to the 5 minute and let's take a look at this divergence indicator, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, this is one of the publicly available scripts that are out there. This isn't mine. Let's see who did this one. Lonesome the Blue. This is a pretty popular script out on TradingView that helps detect divergences. You'll notice there's a lot of really good lines here that you would like to trade the bottom of here and buy there, or with the red line here you would like to have sold there and maybe take profit pretty quickly. But what you'll notice is here the divergence can actually start as soon as the price is lower than the close price on this candle, as long as the other indicators that it's using their values are also within the divergence range. So if you're looking for a bullish divergence, you're looking for the price to be lower, which in that line it is, but you're also looking for the other indicators, their values to be higher. So this takes a look at all that for you. I've only got the MACD, RSI, and stochastic because those are the ones I personally trust the most with this. And I've got it set to a large time frame, but you can actually, I think these are the default, and you can look for more of those. This is definitely more of an intraday scalping thing if you're looking at such small ranges on those. So I just take a look at 75 for myself because it usually is the larger periods. It's usually a better example of a significant pivot point. So that's something to keep in mind. But one of the things you also need to keep in mind is since it'll catch the divergence all the way down, it's going to keep repainting this line. So that line wasn't only put on here once, it actually started probably from here to here, and then on the next candle, it was also at here. I lost my line tool. Here to there. You can see it would keep repainting that lower and lower. So what I'm actually going to do in this video is I'm going to kind of combine our RSI callout with this divergence indicator since it's open source. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to require that on these bullish divergences that our RSI be below a certain number, but also that we have met a certain percentage price change before it'll print a divergence, because when you're using these as a trading indicator and you want to try and buy at the bottom here on this divergence, if it's painting it up here, that's probably not going to be too good for you. You might have your stop loss hit. So we're going to add some parameters on here, make sure that the RSI is below a certain number, and also make sure that we have a target percentage drop in price for our divergence. So we don't really necessarily want to focus on divergences that are mostly flat like that. We like these divergences that are big like that, like the one it printed here. Yeah, so basically the more drop in price and the lower the RSI, while it's still a divergence, probably a good sign that it's going to bounce. So we're going to take that code and get started now. If you have any questions, definitely leave a question in the chat. I'm trying to look over there every once in a while. I don't know if very many people are watching, but if you are having to watch, just be patient if you have a question. Mainly, this is done for something we can look back on later and get an idea of how we've done this. And I'll probably do a video specifically to explain what we're doing here. And I don't actually know if that copies the source code or not. Oh yeah, make a copy. How about that? So RSI divergence, divergences with RSI and target price change. Okay. Save it as this. Excellent. All right, now you can see we can work with the code. And by the way, the giveaway ended the other day. I've actually gotten in contact with the person who won. I'm about to be sending them their $25 in Bitcoin later today. I just got to get around to actually doing that. But they have claimed it, and we are going to start a new giveaway. So probably today I'm going to create the contest or the giveaway, sweepstakes, whatever they call it. And it's going to run until April 1st. And that's also going to be a $25 giveaway. So definitely make sure you're keeping in touch or keeping up with the channel. That way you can keep up with some of the giveaway stuff. I put in there some questions about some of the stuff we've been talking about. And I might even have a question from this particular video so that people can actually watch the video and find the answer. But it also kind of rewards the people who are actually watching the videos if they do that one. But there's going to be plenty of stuff you can do that you don't actually have to do that. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details on the actual code for this. There's a lot going on. There's tons of different indicators in here. But the main thing we want to focus on is our RSI. It's pretty simple. That is there. And then we also want to convert this to a strategy. And then let's save this. I actually kind of want to rename it now as soon as it's done. Whenever I make a strategy, from now on, I kind of like to use strategy at the end of it. That way people will know. TradingView has a little indicator or a little icon at the end of strategies when you search for them that lets you know it's a strategy. But I want to make it pretty clear what we're working with here. So let me go back. Look on my other screen. I'm going to copy some code from another project I'm working on here. Give me just a moment. Let's see. We're just copying some parameters over for the strategy. Excellent. So since this is a strategy, we are going to define a few other things. The pyramiding is basically how many different orders you can have open at once. Default quantity type, we're going to use our percentage of our equity. We're going to have our default quantity be 100% of our equity that we're using to trade with. We're using a commission. These help you calculate fees into the review or the performance summary, I should say, the trades, so you can see what's going on. We're going to use a 0.1%, which is Binance fees, and we're not going to have any slippage, although you're probably going to have slippage, especially if you're using market orders here. Now let's go back. We've got this. We don't actually have any entries in here. So there's a couple other things I want to copy over that I use. We got some inputs. And yes, so there's several inputs we're going to copy over here. I have some profit inputs. So we're going to have a take profit and a stop loss. And I want to set these a little bit higher because we're going to work with 5-minute candles. Let's set this at 3. And set that at 3 as well. And if you're not familiar, the step here is the amount it increases or decreases every time you click the little up or down arrows. So we'll go from 3 to 2.75, 2.5 if we're going down. The buy below target. This was something we've used on something else. Buy below. We'll also do a sell above. So we're going to copy this. And the buy below is going to be used for our bullish divergences, and the sell above is going to be for the bearish divergences. So let's take a look here at what we can do. Buy below target percentage. Let's set this to, let's just say 1%. We'll obviously have to change these a little bit. I'm going to set the step to 0.1. Buy below. Buy below first divergence point by percent. So this is going to mean here we're looking at our first divergence point, and we're going to require that it drops more than 1% by default before it'll even attempt to make a purchase. And we're also going to have another input here in just a minute for the RSI. So not only are we going to want it to drop more than 1 or however many percent, but we're also going to want the RSI to be below a certain number as well. So I'm going to continue that on. Let me fix my other screen back here so that I can keep up with what's going on. All right, we got our buy below. Oh, man, I wish there was a search and replace on here that worked well. I don't like using the built-in Chrome search stuff. So we're just going back here and changing some of the stuff in here to make sure it's clear what we're actually working with. And this would be above because the price would be moving up. Excellent. Source of sell above. So for example, the source, I just want to make sure this is clear. We talked about how the price had to change by a certain percentage. When we're talking about the source, we could use the high. We would want the high of this one, the percentage change from the high of this to where it detects a divergence on that high. That would help you catch these wicks. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of it. But it should work either way with a close price. But when you're comparing the two, even with the close price, it'll catch it. But you'll start your comparison here versus down here with the close price. So you would start your comparison here if a close and go up 1%, which might be at the line here. But if you start at the high and you go up 1%, it'll have to catch it up here on the divergence. So that's just an example of what we're looking with here with the target source on these particular things. Now we've got our take profits, we've got our buy below input set up. We also need, let's do our RSI requirements as well here. Buy below RSI. This is going to be pretty much the same thing as these. And with the buy below, we're going to require the RSI below percentage, or yeah. Okay, so require the RSI below value to buy. Okay, that's a little confusing. So require RSI value to okay, we'll just call that the minimum RSI value to buy. So require a minimum RSI value to buy. This way, when the price is going to go down, we're going to require that the RSI be below 20, let's say, to start with. All right, that's simple enough, and we'll just copy and paste this. Actually, we're going to set the step to 1 because we're not usually doing a whole lot of points in between on the RSI. So we'll go back and change this to sell. Require maximum value to okay, so this is going to be worded the same way. It might be a little bit confusing because they both say minimum, but they're on opposite sides of the spectrum for the RSI. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I think we've got everything we need to actually start with making our entries on our strategy and then also creating our exits with our take profit and stop loss. So I'm going to go back over to my other screen. I'm going to pull up that code that I actually need for that stuff. So give me just a moment. Excellent. Here it is. And since we have our inputs set there and we're defining some values down here and calculating those, we're actually going to calculate our profit target and our loss target based on the percentage that we put in. So the current price, take a percentage of that and divide it by the minimum tick info. That gives you your target price. It's pretty simple. little calculation here that helps you find out where your profit target is, so that when you put your positions in, you'll already have your exit set up with your take profit and stop loss. And speaking of the entries on the positions, this is only going to go long for now. We'll also have to look at how we're going to short that as well in the future. We'll probably just use is a sell just to catch anything else. But for now, we're just going to focus on the bullish divergences. And we might go back later and take a look at how to short this. But we're almost there, honestly. I need to go back up here and get the name of a couple of these. So we want to buy below RSI. All right, so I already mentioned we want our RSI to be below a certain number here. And the indicator that we've taken this from already has a value set up to tell you if you're in a positive divergence. So we're going to copy this, and I hope they don't have their wording backwards on that by saying a positive divergence is the green lines instead of where the price goes up. But I think we'll be fine. And we also have to calculate our buy below and our sell above prices. Those will be targets as well. We're going to have to go back and actually get this information. So yeah, this one will be a little bit trickier than the other things we've done, but shouldn't be too much of an issue. We're actually going to use an if statement here because we're only going to do this if we have a positive divergence. So if we have a positive divergence, let's take these. Oops, we have to get the spacing exactly right on these. And we will name this the buy below target price. And this will be the sell above target price. And I have to go back through this code, and we have to find the starting point of the divergence, and we're going to have to base our price off of that instead of the current close, which was what we would use for setting up a take profit and a stop loss. So we're going to have to go back up here. Hey man, thanks for the compliment there. Yeah, we're doing a lot of good stuff here. If there's anything you want to see, just let me know, dude. All right, so let's go back up here. Positive divergence, where is it? So when we plot the line, it will be the low of bot C, I believe, is the correct value that we're going to use here. So the low of bot C, I don't know why I put it there, but I hate that. I hold the control key down to copy and paste some stuff, and sometimes it does that. So we're going to have to use the high of the top channel on that one, I believe. Yep. So with the cell above, we'll have to use that up here. And then we'll also want to change the stop loss and take profit stuff to actually use our buy below target and our sell above target inputs that we used for the percentage amount. And I don't think I had percent in the word. Go back and double check that. Oh yeah, I did actually. Excellent. Okay. And that's all there is. So now we're also going to need to check that our buy below target source, which is either the close or the high or low or whatever you specified for this particular candle, it also has to be below the target, let's see, I've done talked myself into a circle here. The buy below target price. So actually, I messed that up. That needs to be the source. I said it correctly, but I just got confused. Okay, so our target source, which would be if we selected the close, so our current close would have to be below the buy below target price. So if we targeted, a drop that would have been here, we would have had to have the current close be below that, and also the RSI be below a certain number as well. So I think that's got that covered. I'm going to get rid of this, and let's just say we're going to sell if there is a negative divergence for now. Let's see. Let's change some names around here. And before we sell this, or set up the strategy to actually work, we'll have everything named, hopefully correctly. Okay. So if we have a buy, we're going to enter, it's going to be called divergence strategy. And if we set up our exit to take profit based on the profit target and loss target that we set. And then also, if we somehow didn't reach our take profit or our stop loss, we're just going to sell if we get a negative divergence here. So let's actually try this out and see how it goes. Oh yeah, it figures we would have had some errors here. All right, sell above target percent. Undeclared identifier. Did I really not name those? I didn't change them to above here. That was a mistake. And this is why I usually do all of my code before I make a video, so that we don't have to run into this when we're actually doing the tutorials and stuff. So RSI, okay. So they use lowercase in this indicator. Let's see what else we got wrong. Buy below target price. Where is this? 233. Buy below target price. Okay. So let's actually declare these variables first, set them, and then we'll set them again within that. I believe that should take care of that issue. Then to set them a second time, you have to do the colon equals. Processing. Hey, I think it worked that time. Let's see if there's any entry. No. Oh yeah, gotta add it to chart, obviously. All right. So even with the 5 bars, it looks really good. 3% on such short bars here to work with. Let's actually change this to what I've been looking at here, which is 75, 75. That's not too good. Let's remove some of these other indicators I don't really care for. All right, so take profit, buy below first divergence point. All right, well, I'll probably do some troubleshooting because that seems like it should have been working better than that. It's actually working though, so that's good. Buy below source, close, minimum RSI, that could be an issue because sometimes it doesn't get super low. Yeah. Sell above. I think part of the issue might be the take profit and stop loss as well. We're looking at 5-minute candles, 3% might be quite a bit on those. Sell above the first divergent point. Since we're only using this as a kind of a take profit right now, we'll just leave it at 0. And minimum RSI value to sell. Do that. Okay, we got that. Let's try adjusting our take profit as well here. Yeah, I think 3% was just too much. Keeps going down, so what's optimal might be, I would say 2%, but that's a pretty fine line between 6.71 and 0.47. I would be fine with 3.88. Now let's adjust the stop loss and see if this helps any. Oh yeah, stop loss was terrible. Okay, so it started to go back down. Went back up again that time. Okay, yeah, so it's a little inconsistent there. Move it back up here, 6.58%. I'll take that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's take a look at our trades now that it made. That's nice. And this goes back to February 2nd. So let's see, how many trades did we get total? 10 trades in about a month. That's pretty good. Considering you're pretty confident on these, I would say. There's still some work to do on the shorting side of things to try and get that figured out, but we have an idea here of what's going on. All right, let's take this out at some higher time frames and see if we can get a little bit better stuff going on. I'm actually going to take a quick break. I got a phone call and make sure it's not something important. There and back here. All right, let's take this out a little bit further. These things probably should be a little bit more reliable when you get these larger time frames. You can see the entry here on that position because this indicator will repaint. The divergence occurred here, but because it repaints, you see the line going all the way down to here. So we can play around with this one as well. So it's on 15-minute candles. Let's see. Yeah, everything fun is down here. Let's require this. I think something might be off on that because that doesn't seem quite right. That's really weird. I think something's wrong with our buy below and our sell above, most likely. But we'll go back and take a look at that. Let's see if I can get it to 0, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that definitely is not right. Okay, so let's actually just go in here because that might have really messed things up with the other one. So typically what I do on this is I plot these things. Let's actually set these to NA. That way we don't have to plot a bunch of useless stuff. We'll plot our buy below target price. And we'll plot our sell above target price. Actually, I don't want to plot that one because we're not really too worried about selling above right now. Okay, I need to change the defaults so that I don't have to do that every time. also change these defaults because I don't want all of these other indicators. And that, that, and finally that. So save that. It should look like we had it before. It takes a while to render. Okay, so yeah, our buy below target. This is at 1%. That's not doing right. So we actually have to subtract that value, I believe, from what we're looking at. So that was definitely not working correctly. It's like it's 94.74. Which was tree. Yeah. So that was correct. I don't know what's wrong. Let me pull up my other code. I've done this before quite a bit. I just usually don't bother remembering this stuff. Not much of a point to it. Price change. Figure what indicator I did that with. I found it here. Okay, so we're actually going to change this up a little bit. See if it works right now. To take the low of that one, then I want to subtract its difference. So I take percentage difference here. C times our percentage, our buy below target percent times 0.01. I believe that should take care of it. And on this one, of course, we would want to add the percentage of the cell above if we ever get around to actually doing this. Yeah, there you go. You can see it's plotting the line a lot better. It was up here, and now it's down here, so we would probably want to require a much larger drop on these 15-minute candles. But it looks like it's working correctly now. Let's take a look at the strategy tester. Not too good. But I think if we change our percentage drop, that'll help a lot. And let's also set this up to 6, 6. That might help once we change this. Set that 3%. Oh. Not doing that great. That's a huge percentage drop to check for. Let's require the minimum RSI to be a little higher. See if it'll catch more. Seems like it definitely would have been better on those 5-minute candles like we had it. Let's just try reducing the take profit back even more. Yeah. So the swings on the divergences aren't big enough. That's why it's not catching profit. and oftentimes it's dropping more. That's precisely why it isn't catching profit, because the bounces aren't the percentage profit we would really ideally be looking for here. So you can still get it to be profitable, but it's just not that great. You can play around with it. That's not too bad. Let's go back into the 5 minutes here. Look, this one, we obviously need to change the percentage. Set down to 1, see how that does. That's not too bad. See, we had what, 1.5 and 1.75 before. 1% drop. RSI needs to be below. Well, must not be a whole lot of these. No. So it might have been better off just to use the actual divergences that are actually built in. But I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. But the good thing about this is we can actually take a look and see what divergence periods work best, and you can try and scalp some with it. I mean, 1.5% if you're scalping is a lot when you're looking at 0.1% fees. So all you really have to do is make anything over 0.3% or 0.2%. Anything over 0.2, so it's just like 0.21 would be enough to cover your fees, but you also need take profit to be high enough to actually make you enough profit to overcome your losses that you're going to take. So let's go in and play around with this a little bit more. Let's go with what they had as the default. Oh man, there's tons of them. Performance summary. And it's a lot though. Goes back to the 15th. Let's change this. We don't need much of a drop on 5-minute candles. Okay, doesn't make much of a difference at that point. Nice. It's catching some better ones here at 1.5, 1.6%, both 1.7. Take profits. Let's lower our stop loss here. At 0.75. Two. So it looks like we might need a better exit to catch some profit other than waiting for a negative divergence or a profit to be called. So I'm actually going to go in here, and on the is a sell, we're going to have or the RSI being greater than 60. I did this with my RSI strategy video. Worked out pretty good because if you're trading trying to catch the bottom, you're probably not expecting a huge run up after that. Oh, I gotta change all those other settings back. But it put that one on the 75.75 on the 5-minute candles back in profit. So let's play around with it on the shorter scalps here. Pretty much the same thing. Let's see. Reset our take profit and stop loss. What I had it at, I think it was 0.75. Alright. It's pretty good. We'll leave it at 2. Change our take profit. I'll just leave that at 3%. It's not bad. Yeah, we adjusted the buy below percentage as well earlier. See if that helps any. Kept it at 1.7 last time. Let's see if we can raise the RSI, because if we've already dropped that much, it might work out. Yeah, it didn't matter too much. Even going lower. All right, so that's not terrible. 3.7%. No failed trades. I'll definitely take that. It's just not doing enough, I think. I think part of it is the percentage drop we have is pretty large. That's why it's not catching so much, so we'll raise that up a bit. And also change these. Let's go with 30 on both of these. Stability change. Definitely want to change that. It's wrong direction. Need this on the performance summary. Now it's trading a lot more, that's for sure. So we can find some better settings here. Definitely don't want to take profit at 3. There we go. That's the thing, you got to give it plenty of room and stop loss. So let's move that down. RSI up. That didn't help. Yeah, there's a lot to play around with here. Let's try something other than Bitcoin. Something that's a little bit more volatile. Let's try XRP versus Bitcoin. So it's got a lot more going on. Let's go back to our 5s. Bad, not bad. That doesn't appear to help too much. Yeah, at least having 1% looks good. Let's buy below the low though. See if that helps. Yeah, that helps. Increase that. Yeah, too much. Back at 1. This is pretty much what I do once I make these. I just play around, try and find some good settings. We'll see, I might publish this later so y'all can take a look at it. I don't like having that come up. See our RSI. Yeah, we'll need to play around with our stop losses. Looks like it'll only go lower. Wow, okay. I bet there's only one trade. Because nothing's really changing. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I bet this is only one trade. 3. Not bad though. There's a lot going on here. But this is one of those things that's really good to do when you're monitoring it. It's a little bit easier to get a feel for this stuff when it's actually happening. So once it starts printing these divergences, um, usually I can get a pretty good tell for when it's going to bounce again. And a lot of times I zoom out on the chart to see where we're at on other time frames to make sure that, you know, the hourly chart doesn't look like it's about to crash when you're buying on a 5-minute chart. Let's see, so just changing some of that stuff. Got it there. It's not bad. It's hard to believe that didn't affect the profit. It must be because they all would have reached their take profit at any given point anyway. It's RSI. That did not help. Okay, I can see why this works, mostly because of the increased volatility when you're trading against Bitcoin. You can get some really low RSI numbers. Got at 18. So let's see what we got now. We got 3 trades over the course of a month, but you know, they're pretty confident trades, of course. Let's see if I can just change this. All right, so we can specify some stuff on here to make this go back more, but I'm pretty much going to be done with the live stream for now. If anyone has any questions, leave a comment or something. I'm going to be heading out for a little while. I've got a couple errands to run here on my day off, but other than that, we're good. We've got some other videos coming out. Like I mentioned earlier, there's the giveaway. I'm going to be posting that. If you're watching this live stream and somehow you haven't seen my other videos, please check them out. We do this kind of stuff, except I'm not live coding in those videos. I usually complete this stuff and then explain it in the videos. Sometimes I'll live code, but a lot of times I'm just copying the completed code over and kind of showing you step by step how I put it together. Other than that, let's see. I've mentioned the giveaway. I've mentioned the other videos here. Thank you all for watching today. Hopefully I can do these again sometime soon, but I really appreciate everyone watching. Please leave a like if you can, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That stuff really helps. But other than that, thank you all. I'm working on some other stuff here later this afternoon. I've been starting to automate some things, so if you want some updates, please follow on Twitter and or check out the Discord as well. There's a lot of stuff I'm working on in between these videos that is going to help really automate and hopefully help everyone if we can get something, or if I can get something nailed down for the alerts. It's going to be really good. But thank you all, everyone. Just have a nice day.